Welcome to Frequently Speaking. This is your host, Max Wellness. Now, here on this podcast, we're going to start to break down words that we speak outwardly and how their vibrations create what we frequently see. Now, in today's episode, we're going to delve into powerful Ities. Welcome, everyone. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Frequently Speaking. On this episode, we are going to go into a hilarious one. I love this topic and I love these words, how they just show up in these ways. We're going to dive into the Ities. Ooh, the Ities. Now, some of y'all nasties may be thinking I'm talking about something else. But listen, these are the Ities of the words. And this is everything like responsibilities, acceptabilities, accountabilities, all of these different words. And we're really going to dive deep into what the actual meaning of this is because here on Frequently Speaking, I'm a nerd and I'm a geek about all of these words, but I'm also this like magical, mystical being that really understands the power and what my goal is here and the real premise of Frequently Speaking is to really understand how we can tap into the etymology and unravel these spells just by really looking at them and seeing the frequencies that they speak. So in looking at this, I'm pretty sure you've never really looked at these suffixes. Half of y'all is probably like, what the hell is a suffix? Like Suffolk County? Only my New Yorkers are gonna get that. But these are the pieces of the words that are really either in the beginning or the end, and the suffix meaning at the end. So we're gonna look at how these preceding words are activated by the suffix, and this suffix is the itties. So today we're going to really look into how powerful these itties are because I want to dive into the meaning of the suffix of the itties and also the importance of the words that come before them. Just as like these affirmations of I am, the two most powerful words that we could ever possibly use, these one words actually are broken up into pieces that become affirmations anyway. So and in this episode, we're going to start to look at how we can begin to break the old patterns of past by taking the tool of the now and assuming the role that you are the one that's actually continuing the cause of this pattern, all with the shift of tapping into these itties. I want to start off by before I jump into the itties, we're going to look at the actual cause of it. Now, as we know, we're in this new day and age where everybody's attaching and identifying their trauma and their healings with this sense of wounding, right? So the wounding that we choose to adhere to is the state that we direct our power into creating. I'm going to go into this a little bit deeper, but this is the sense of subconscious patterning. We think that when we're labeling it and we're identifying it and we're saying, I have a mother wound, I have a father wound, I have an abandonment wound, whatever it is, that is going to shift things for us. But that's actually what keeps it perpetual. We're going to go into this a little bit deeper, and I'm so excited to get into those itties. But if we're not to initiate the power latent within this capability, then this is where we really come to be disempowered. It's the identifying of the power that is and always will be there. Whether we recognize it is up to us, though. Maybe you are your mother, your father, your grandparents, or ancestors' generational manifestation of experienced emotional dissonance in this perceived reality. Even so, you can choose to heal, grow, and progress despite any innate hindrance of spirit and genetic effect. This comes with a sense of activation, and activation is done with willpower. And your willpower is void of excuse, reason, and blame. Begin to make room only for the itties, accountabilities, productivities, responsibilities, and moralities. Now, what am I actually really talking about here? It's this sense of tapping into a higher faculty, which is our willpower. And this is something that I go into a little bit deeper in my course, Fine Tune Faculties, is where we look at and actually practice the practicality of working our higher faculties so that we can see these things rather than just labeling them on an externalized state and saying, oh, I have this wound or oh, I have that wound, and really looking at what it takes to be accountable. So, looking at the accountabilities, looking at how we are actually being productive and the productivities that are actually happening in our life, and looking at our responses to these labels and these woundings and these generational traumas and these genetics and saying, okay, now how am I activating this response? This is where we cannot create a future of new understanding, because by living in a state of unattended ignorance of self plight is just us repeating that same pattern and that same creation of that wound. Most times now, we have this concept of these patterns and cycles that we have a deep pull from others and that came before us. We have these past life regressions and these generational traumas and our ancestors on our back, whether they be our parents, grandparents, past lives, or spiritual animals, whatever dimension you choose to perceive from. There is an absence of responsibility for the experience that you are having now. In my practice, not only with myself, but with clients, I continuously encourage the sense of the ability to respond. If I bring somebody into a past life regression, right? And don't worry, I'm getting back to the ities because this is the sense of the responsibility. You can identify and notice and realize that, okay, maybe I was a witch burned at the stake, or I was an older Asian man in a pub and I got strangled and now I have throat issues, whatever it may be. The ability to respond to this, that is the strength that we have. That is the expression or the exercise of the willpower. Now I am willing this thing to be other than what it actually is in this present now. You are extending this presence of the response that's actually there. You're choosing the response. You're willing the response in that moment in time. And this is what gives activation to the break of that pattern. This gives way to that threshold shift into being in from being cyclical to more spiral based. And you have a direction and a force going forward rather than this absence of that ability to respond. This is where we're just saying, oh, I have this mother wound. Oh, I have this abandonment wound. Oh, I have this. And by me saying I have, that is the affirmation of the solar plexus where the willpower lies. This is where we shift the ities. So now, what exactly are the ities? I know you keep hearing me talk about them and you like, oh, I'm about to get into them ities. But let me break it down for you grammatically first. The suffix ity brings this activation to whatever the word is preceding to it, to be able to bring into cause or into being. This is the actual definition. It's the ability, which is so beautiful. I love how that just works. Such as when we have the ability to respond. We have the choice to assume, take, or even place responsibility. Having that ability or activating that ability is the causing or being of that response. For example, when we hear people expressing how there's this consistent failing of sticking up to their diet or whatever it may be, right? They may come up with all the superficial excuses in the world that place distance between them and the seemingly desired result. Also, you may hear, well, my dad never really stuck to things and had commitment issues. That's where I get it from. All these responses may be valid to some degree, but there is distance that is brought into the present moment from the past or the future. And when we distance ourself from the ability to respond for ourself, we disempower our capability to expand and integrate with truth. This is what the Ities is about. The Ities is the activation of any word that you put before it. So this is you assuming, and this is you verbally, frequently speaking to the universe and saying, I am activating this preceding word. I am activating the response. I am activating the moral. I am activating the product. I am activating the account. All of these words are the spelling. All of these words are the tools to craft what is actually there. When we continuously say or utilize these words in a different way of saying, okay, well, I'm going to put distance in between me and this thing, then that is you separating from the activation, which is disempowering of the self, and you become further from truth because the center of self is truth. Possibly, maybe, I don't know. You have to go into yourself, into your center, and figure that out for yourself. Now, I am all for reflecting back into the past and seeing the shortcomings of our ancestors, our parents, and the essence of our animalistic lineage. But this is a deep knowing that I have my own personal relationship with. I am also all about evolution. And with that, in this integration of exploration, we begin to reflect on the space because it's so important to do so with this mindset of exploring or progress or even reverence. When we give exploration, we give way for progress. When we give way for progress, we give way for this reverence, and we can hold things in reverence. To evolve is to expand, right? And is not expansion a reflection of being able to bring into cause or being? Applying the Ities to our life in the present now is the power of now. When we look at this sense of reflection and we look at this sense of patterning and rhythm and all of these different things, something we have to come to realize is that when we experience in that present now something that we judge, not discern is a higher faculty. When we are in that lower state of judgment, we see this dip and we see ourselves separating from, let's say, that diet. Okay, I haven't been able to do that because this is where I get it from. I've always been terrible with commitments. We are experiencing that dip in that rhythm or in that flow. But to evolve is to notice that, and also notice that that dip is never really going lower than where you were before. You just are judging it in that moment in time because this is the point where we have to activate what the iddies are that are present in that now so that we can extend and evolve and expand and grow a little bit further into the direction that we want to go. Taking accountability for this thing is assuming that, but to activate it is looking at and drawing out the accountabilities that are present. I'm taking account that I have commitment issues. Now, this is the action and the accountabilities that I've put in place to counteract those commitment issues. I've taken responsibility for having all the snacks in my cupboard or in my fridge, but I am bringing in the responsibilities going forward to not choose to have unhealthy snacks. These are the things that we can start to take into activation just with the words that we are saying. And this gives us a peek into the past and to see that these patterns are to learn how to grow forward, how to bring in the truth of responding, accounting, and producing a pure effect in our life now. So, applying the Ities within our life can help to dissolve all these avoiding, escaping, and dependency habits that get in the way of us expanding towards creating peace within our life, showing up for the ones that we love, and also creating our highest level of expression of joy. When life presents us with the choices to apply these Ities, they actually look like the exact thing we don't want. That extra piece of pie being offered, you failing to meet a personal goal of yourself, or even the connection with someone that consistently doesn't give you what you want. These moments in time that look to pull you from your peace are perfect times for you to apply the tool of the Ities and tap into the power of now. Sitting with your patterns is different than sitting in your patterns. Observing these things can relate to the way that you're causing your effect today is the liberation that that freedom of truth brings. In this observation is power. Power that we can then reclaim by releasing their hold on us that our grandparents were addicts or that our dad was an abusive person and becoming powerless to those possible truths. We take those possible truths and look at the possibilities that are surrounding them in that unknown space. We begin to utilize our own willpower of now to break that pattern by assuming the role and applying a different cause to establish a different effect so we no longer choose anger or our vice of choice. We then claim that power in the now moment and continue this until the pattern is dissolved completely and you are able to settle into the peace of what you choose to cause into being. So, I want to get into a practice for this because, again, as you know, I love the itties. And this is such a great and beautiful practice because we start to look at the ways that these things that are placed in our life, whether they be accountability, whether they be being stable, whether they be being the author of our life, being adverse to certain things, or whatever they may be, we start to look at that suffix of how we can leverage this one tool at the end of any word that we choose as a leverage point to bring power back into our life and exercise these higher faculties of willpower, of creativity, of imagination. So I want to get into this practice and it's going to be something cognitive, but I love how you can just take this into your actual reality and start to play with it. I mean, I'm a Pisces, so I'm super creative in this way of I like to see things in my mind and like experiment them out in the world. And this is by far one of my most favorite practices. So, to start off, we're going to choose a word from the list that's below. You can either print this out, or if you would like to get a little bit more in depth and do some one on one with this, you can shoot me a message or click the link at the bottom and schedule a call with me. This list is to bring into practice the applying towards situations that pull you from your peace, your calm, your bliss, whatever it may be, even if it's focus. Now, can you apply them to assume that they are yours and see where you can dissolve the resistance within these situations? This is the trick. Dissolving these senses of what is in this situation, whether it be reliability, whether it be secureness, whether it be the sense of credibility, whether it be sensual or like whatever the word that you choose is, you look at this resistance that you have with it and see in which ways that you can dissolve it. But the next step is bringing them into this cause or seeing how you are bringing them into being. That is the real trick and that is the real key, is to notice in your actual life when you're going through your house, when you're going to your job, when you're in a conversation with somebody, when you're alone by yourself, seeing how you are actually bringing this into cause. You can either write this down, you can take a mental note, you can do some push ups, whatever it may be, something to signify this moment in time. Then we're going to find ways to keep it consistent. Keeping it consistent means keep that shift going. Every time that you notice this sense of you separating yourself or creating distance between taking account for things, separating or putting distance between when you feel this absence of stability. This is where we want to keep these things consistent, to keep noticing it, and looking at the ways in which we can apply what we've chosen to do in that same sense. So try one word a week and cultivate the tool of empowering yourself with these itties. So, for example, let's take reliability. Now, we take the sense of being able to rely and we take the activation of that. Now, the activation is when we look at it a little bit deeper, it is the ability to activate it, right? Or the ability to rely. So, in this example, you would take this word and look at throughout the whole week and notice. And this is where you come up and get a little creative with how you notice and how you mark the times when you are experiencing a space or an opportunity to have the ability to rely on somebody or rely on something, whatever it may be. You take this point in the moment, in the now moment, and whether it be doing a squat, quacking like a duck, writing it down, recording it, whatever it may be, you take that and that is your tracking advice, and you say, okay, this is where I'm separating or making space in a sense of the ability to rely. Now, what can I do to increase this ability to be able to rely on this? You can say, you can write down or whatever it may be, I'm going to lean more into relying. What does relying look like to me? What does relying feel like to me? What is actually hindering me? Am I telling myself that I can't rely on this person, that I can't rely on this thing? So now you allow yourself permission. So these are some of the tools that counteract you noticing this pattern every time you are putting space in between you being able to rely on a person, place, or thing. And then you're looking at the tool that you have to create and give you that empowerment to create the itty. Now, that last step is really bringing it into cause. You have found the way to be more consistent with that, and you say, okay, now I'm going to lean into it more. So when you notice that you're doing that push up or you're quacking like that duck or you're journaling, this is the time where you lean in, you exercise that tool. You say, I am going to take the reliability. I am going to activate the reliability. I have the reliability in this place, person, thing, because I am doing X, Y, and Z. And that is you showing yourself, practicing it, and embodying that sense of that powerful itty. Thank you guys for tuning in today for this amazing episode. I hope you took something from this practice and this beautiful itty and really look at how we can tune in, leverage, and really shift these words into creating more empowering conversations with not only ourselves, but those around us on a daily basis. Now, if you would like to practice this a little bit more or dive a little bit deeper into how we can bring this into embodiment, into your life, into your daily practice, into your exercise, into your children, however it may be, you can click the link below or shoot me an email to schedule a call for a one-on-one meeting. Thank you guys, and I will see you next week. Don't forget to smile out loud and embrace your soul. If you like this episode and would like to explore more perspectives like this with me as we get a bit more intimate and intricate look into our internal vibrations, be sure to tune in to next week's episode and subscribe for more. Until then, keep frequently speaking what you frequently see.